Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast. We have an amazing guest for you today. She is a Gen Z guru, a rising star, a financial industry trailblazer. Please help me welcome Ally Carty, National Account Executive at ActiveComply. Ally, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael. I do not deserve that big of an introduction, but I appreciate it. And I'm so excited to have a conversation with you. You are trailblazing it on LinkedIn and including everyone. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, it is great to have you, and you do deserve those accolades. You're doing some wonderful things. First of all, welcome back. Didn't you just recently get back from vacation, from traveling?
Yes, I just got back from Europe. I feel like I'm finally in the good time zone. I'm sleeping normally, so I'm glad to be back and ready to tackle the second half of the year.
So tell me, I know one thing that you said prior to going was that you and your friend booked some excursions in a different way. You found these excursions a little different. Give me a quick recap, because I know our followers follow you all over social. So how did those excursions that you picked through social and TikTok and some of the other things work out?
Yeah, so it's funny. I not until I entered the space did I realize just how different it is between the way I do things and maybe my mom does things. So weeks prior to before we left, my best friend and I, we created like this notes page, and it's like a shared page where you can post, both of you like have a conversation, and we were posting all of the different places we wanted to go, and then like we'd be like, oh, this is on TikTok, I sent it to you on TikTok. And I just think it's important to highlight, like, we wanted to feel like we were in those cities. We wanted to feel like we knew what to expect in that experience, visiting the bar, the restaurant, the cooking class, the waterfall jumping. We wanted to hear someone recounting it and talking about their favorite thing or maybe why they didn't like it. And when I got home, like the week before we left, I was talking to my mom, and she's like, how do you know that's going to be good? And I was like, because this person, like, they're showing you exactly what to expect. Like, it's not going to be like fraudulent. And she's like, but how do you, and I'm like, Mom, just watch the video. And so we sat there and we looked through all the TikToks together. And it just was so powerful to me, the fact that people in another country could record their experience, share it, and encourage me to go. Versus my mom was using like Google and, hey, my friend from South Carolina said we have to do this. And it's just a little bit different, but we were able to accomplish so many things because of social media.
Well, we'll dive into that in a second, because I want to
Yeah.
find out more, and especially apply it to the mortgage industry. First, tell us a little bit about how you got started in the mortgage industry.
Absolutely. So I mentioned my mom. She is in the industry. My dad is also in the industry. I grew up kind of tossing around Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all these terminologies around our dinner table. And I always told myself, never. I can't be a part of it. I was like 10 years old during 2008, which sounds so like not impactful, but I was really impacted. I remember coupon cutting. We got a new car. Like, I told my mom I wanted to be in a reliable, non-turbulent industry. And so I graduated, worked for Oracle. I was selling technology there. I worked for Dell for a couple months, and Blake Boss, we both know Blake Boss. He's
Yep.
phenomenal. And I trust him with my life, quite literally. I went to FSU because of him. I went to the sales program there because of him. And so he had confidence he could convince me to come to ActiveComply. And I was like, listen, Blake, I love you, but I can't do it. I told myself I wouldn't. And he was like, just come to one conference. So I ended up going to a Miami regulatory conference and falling in love with the industry, the opportunity to connect with people in person. And I slowly realized he and I are kind of the only people under 25 in the room. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we are in a unique position where we're able to have these conversations with C-level executives and have great exposure to industry topics. But as I started sitting through conferences and realizing, like, the average age of a loan officer isn't even close to our age, and
Right.
why not? How can I help our industry better recruit from a college level? How can our industry better understand Blake and I's mentality? And so I've really developed this passion going conference to conference through ActiveComply, of bridging that gap between Gen Z consumers, men and women in my life, and the industry executives who are sitting at a round table discussing, hey, how can we better market to Gen Z? How can we better reach them? And I'm like, hey, I can give you my account. And so in that, I've kind of developed this LinkedIn presence accounting for Gen Z information and really best practices. So yeah, that's my story. I got started because of Blake Boss, and I don't know if I'll ever leave the industry.
Well, and you know the saying, once you're in, you never leave. You may switch companies, you may do something else, but you won't leave. Well, we're so glad to have you. You bring a wealth of knowledge and experience from your perspective, which I think is so absolutely critical. Like you said, there's a lot of guys like me in the boardrooms trying to make those decisions, but we lack some of the perspective. I have two daughters in your age range, and I love talking to them and finding out where do they go for information. I mean,
Right.
I can honestly say the two of them probably have not stepped inside a bank probably in 5 or 8 years. I mean, maybe when they originally opened up their first account, but they don't bank like I used to bank or how I bank. And so I want to talk to you about some best practices from a mortgage perspective. Tell me about, what are some of the best practices for Gen Z? If we want to not only market to them, but truly understand kind of your guys' thought process, walk us through that. I'd love to share that with our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a funny point. Was, and this, I hate saying this, but a couple months ago, I had signed a lease. It was back at the early like January, and I went in and signed my lease here in Nashville. And full transparency, I have intention to buy a home soon, but I didn't know where I wanted to live anyway. So I go into the leasing office and I like do my lease, whatever, and you had to have a check to pay off some part of the process. And I was like, can't I just Venmo you? Can't I just send you money through Zelle, whatever? And they're like, no, like we have to have a check. And I'm like, where do I like? I call my mom. I'm like, Mom, where do I get a check? And she's like, you got to go to your bank. And I'm like, I have no idea where I bank with Chase. And I'm like, I have no idea where a Chase Bank is. And she's like, you got to go to one. Just look it up. And so I drive like 12 minutes, and I thought it was the biggest inconvenience. Like, I was like, are you kidding? It's a Saturday. I don't want to drive to the bank. And I went to the bank. They were able to help get me a check. And I was like, they were like, how many do you need? I was like, I don't know, two. I was like, I probably won't ever need another check again. So I go, I fill out the check and everything. I turn it in, and a week later, they call me and they say, hey, it didn't work. And I'm like, why? This is so embarrassing. I guess I didn't write it in cursive, the like
Oh,
$150. Like I hadn't filled out a check since probably elementary school. And so
right.
that just goes to show like the importance that like me, your daughters, I didn't even know where the local bank was here in Nashville. And much less did I want to go in, and I think that that's important also because I didn't know what to expect in that interaction.
Yep.
Nobody's posting on TikTok, hey, I'm going to my bank today. We're going to go talk about XYZ. It's not a normal or approachable conversation, I think. And a lot of people my age, as I've done these interviews, the idea of talking about a mortgage and having topics of conversation that I don't fully understand, or they don't understand, they don't want to have those conversations because they don't want to come across uneducated. And I think that especially at the age right after college, people want to be confident and have this ability to know that they know where they're going in life. Hey, I have a business degree. I know how to write a check. Nope, I don't. And so it's conversations like that where I hope our industry can better break down those terminologies, break down the idea of, oh, well, you can get a conventional loan actually. And my friend, I was like, oh, well, you can get a conventional loan. And she's like, what does that
What's a
mean?
conventional,
And
right?
the only reason she said that was because she trusted me and she knew that I wasn't going to judge her based on her response. But as I looked at the conversation, I was like, I'd be curious in a conversation with the loan officer who maybe, even if they're 2 or 3 years older, it doesn't really matter the age difference. It's the idea that you have to admit you don't know something, and it requires authenticity from both parties for me and my friend group to admit that.
Right.
And so when you ask, like, hey, how can we best connect with Gen Z? I think social media is powerful. Like I mentioned, nobody's talking about mortgages on TikTok. Nobody's talking about it on Instagram Reels or in their brand. It's just not a brand that's well resonated with my age group. And I think a lot of industries could use that. Insurance, healthcare, it's not romanticized across social media versus I follow a couple different actually nurses, and they like just romanticize
Okay.
life. They're like, hey, get ready with me to go to my job as a nurse working the night shift or whatever. And it's approachable. And it's like when you see a nurse who's working a night shift, you feel like you understand them better. So I think posting about your job, talking about your favorite parts, you do a great job at that, Michael. You're like, oh my gosh, I get to do this today. How lucky am I? And I just think loan officers have an opportunity to talk about their passions and themselves across social media to help more Gen Z consumers understand them and better relate to them.
So let's talk all the different platforms, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Threads, there's Twitter or X or whatever the
Yeah.
hell it is today, and LinkedIn. And so, where do you think is some of the best places to come and start presenting this content and this information?
Yeah. So I think it's you should be on all of it. And that sounds so stereotypical, but I'm not gonna lie. Instagram and TikTok are the two platforms that I know I can go on, send one of my friends a video over DM. They're gonna view it within 3 to 4 hours. They're gonna respond.
Right.
So that is just one way to see, my age group. I'm 24, and my brother, I send him Instagram reels. And I will say, kind of as you go younger, a lot of the girls in my life are on YouTube, which is interesting. I'm not as active on YouTube just because I think that I don't think I used it as much in college. But my brother, that's where he gets all of his information. He listens to the same YouTuber, finance guru. And then my girlfriends, like, they're like, oh, it's Sunday, I'm going to listen to my favorite blogger on YouTube while I clean the house. So I think it really depends on who you want to resonate with, but also you should be on it all and you should be repurposing content. Especially though, TikTok, Instagram, I did my survey. I'm sure you've seen some of my surveys, and
Yep.
where I interviewed or surveyed 150 to 200 people in my life, given they were not super representative of the entire US. So I always want to give that note, but it is data I would support and stand by. 69% were using Instagram the most, and 31% were on TikTok the most. And Twitter and Facebook both had zero. So just based on the conversations that I'm having, the people in my network, those were the most heavily used platforms. Not that they aren't on all four, but TikTok and Instagram are the top two performing.
Well, and I agree. And I think a lot of people are shocked in the mortgage industry that it's Instagram and TikTok, right?
Yeah.
They don't think that mindset of, hey, that's where people are at. One thing I want to probe a little bit deeper is what type of content, because the phrase I hear all the time, and I'm partially to blame for this, is you've got to add value. It can't just be what's in it for you. How do you add value to people? But what does that actually mean, and what does that look like? What's something of informational value to Gen Z? What's something that they're going to watch, they're going to share, they're going to read that they find helpful, not just, hey, I've got the best rates. Hey, I've got the best mortgage. That's not going to do it. So share with me a little insights on that side.
Absolutely. So one, I'm glad that you asked me this because you are king of short form content on LinkedIn. You do a really good job at captivating the audience and not overdoing it, but sharing the exact right form. So I'm always like on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, I know Michael's video is going to be super informative. It's going to be short. I can listen to it before I start my morning meeting. Always great. So props to you. You've mastered that. I'm still
Oh,
working
thank
on
you.
cutting out some content in mine. So I think that short form content is probably going to be the most interact with and also engaging for my friend group. But I think that adding value. So this is something I've been sharing. I recently got this book, Making Mortgage Sense. I saw it on LinkedIn. Someone recommended it.
Okay.
And it's really short. And I love that in the back, they have this glossary where they break down terminology. And this is so important because as I read the book, I started reading it during school mortgage banking, and it does a great job at top level just breaking down the industry and why we should trust it. And that's the type of value that I think our industry can add. Hey, listen, this is the difference between banking with a credit union or a bank, or going with a independent mortgage bank, or different ways to break down the broker. And so I think that those types of content, 30 seconds, hey, are you curious what a broker is? Let's talk about it. Boom, boom, boom. Posting that that's just building your brand and getting people to engage with your content because it's short, it makes sense, and it's helping them understand it better.
See, I love that. Somebody could take the glossary and do a short form with almost every term in that glossary, and they would have content for now till the end of the year, but it would actually add value. It's informative. Now you got to make it a little bit more engaging, and you can't just read like
Yeah,
you're
and you
reading
could
off
just
the
do it like once
dictionary.
every
But
Monday. Like, hey, it's Monday. Like you do Mindset Monday, you could be like, hey, it's breaking down terminology Monday. Let's talk about it. And then on Wednesday, you could post, hey, here's a success story with my client out in Sacramento or whatever. Hey, let's talk about what you thought and what your favorite part about your new home is and how we helped you do that.
you have such a wealth of information. You and I could talk for hours. We're
We could
definitely
talk
going to
for
have to
hours.
meet in person, hopefully at MBA Annual. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about ActiveComply. What's new with you guys? Where are you focusing your attention, and where are you guys adding the most value to people out there in the industry?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. So ActiveComply, we're social media monitoring for lending institutions, financial institutions. My real passion for our product is we're giving banks, IMBs, credit unions, really whoever needs to monitor their employees for, those regulators, the audits. We give them the tools to provide with regulators everything out there on social media. And in that, we give, different lending institutions the power to allow their employees to brand themselves, the power to allow their employees, if they want to do a get to know me as a loan officer Friday, they can do that with the tool like ActiveComply, and they can build more relationships and what seems like a very tough market for everyone right now. And during this downtime, they could be creating content, building their brand so that when those loan officers or when those consumers are able to buy a home or feeling, hey, this is something I do want to do right now. I saved this video from back when. So yeah, basically we give loan officers the ability to use social media, and I love that. So if anybody out there is using social media and curious about how we can help you monitor it for compliance concerns, we are the go-to for that.
What's the best way that they can get a hold of you if they want to find out more, if they want to probe about social media and making sure that they're compliant and everything? How can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So I also am doing short, like for some of our clients, I am doing just social media best practices. Hey, here's what I'd be doing if I were you. Seminars. So if you're an ActiveComply customer, we're slowly starting to roll that out. So reach out to me. But LinkedIn, Ally Carty. I know Michael, we tag each other in all of our videos. So
Yep.
somewhere on there you can find me. And then Instagram, Ally Carty Mortgage. And then I have a TikTok, which is Get to Know Gen Z, GET, the number 2, Know Gen Z. Right now they are kind of barren, but that's just because I'm working on a bunch of different content to hopefully be posting out twice a week come the new year. So follow me. It'll be more abundant come the new year, but hopefully we'll be able to record some content, Michael, at MBA Annual.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to it. Ally, you are a shining star in this industry. It was so nice to talk to you. I appreciate your time today and sharing your incredible insights about Gen Z. Thank you for being a guest on this episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast.
Thanks for having me. So appreciative of you and other industry leaders for giving me a voice. So thank you.
Thank you.